Welcome to the Generation Kids Daily Devo podcast, where we move from wonder to worship, looking for God at work in the world around us, ready to ask the tough questions and discover what His Word has to say to us. Today's episode is titled, Torn Down to Build Up, and it comes from me, Casey Taylor. I once heard a story, or maybe it was more like a parable, where the story is meant to teach you something, and probably wasn't literally true, but it goes something like this. A man fell and accidentally got stuck in a large box. And after crying for help, and to no avail, he prayed that God would help him find a way out. And to his amazement, God answered him and assured him that He would help him find a way out. So he waited, and he waited, and he continued to wait. Then one day he got tired of waiting, so he started pushing against one of the walls. He did this for days. He would push and push, and he pushed, but he just couldn't push his way through one of the walls of the box. So he stopped trying for a little bit, and he started doing push-ups because he got bored of pushing against the walls and didn't have anything else to do. But then after a while, he started pushing again. And he did this for weeks, pushing against the walls, then resting, and then more push-ups when he got bored, and then pushing on the walls some more, trying to get himself out of this box. When one day he stopped pushing completely. He began to grow hopeless and tired of waiting for God to show up and follow through with what He said He'd do in helping him to get out of his box. He knelt on the floor and he began to cry. And while tears flowed, he looked at the sky and began to pray again. This time, a bitter and more hopeless prayer. God, You told me You'd rescue me. You told me You'd help me get out. And I just keep waiting. I've even tried to get myself out by pushing against these walls every day in hopes that something will give and I'll be free. But You've been silent and haven't helped me at all. Having heard his prayer, God answered him, My son, I told you that I would help you find a way out, and I've done just that. Amazed, he let a laugh escape out of his mouth and he blurted out, What do you mean? I'm still in this box, and through all of my pushing, I've gotten nowhere. Patiently, God responded with this, My son, these past few weeks, you have grown in your strength, pushing mightily against these fortified walls each day. And your muscles have grown and strengthened to the point where if you go right now and push once more against the wall you've been warring against for weeks, you will surely push through it. I have given you time and space to struggle, while you maintain belief that you would get out of this box. And this time has provided you with the determination and strength that you now possess, which will see you overcome the walls. So now go and push once more. He did so. And sure enough, after a couple of big pushes, the wall on the one side crumbled, and he pushed through and found his freedom. God didn't remove the wall, but He used the wall to make the man stronger. This is a picture of how God will use our struggles and pains in life. He doesn't waste them, even when they break our hearts, hurt our feelings, or break down our bodies. We see this in the book of Romans.
And we know that for those who love God, all things work together for good, for those who are called according to His purpose. Romans 8:28.
What this means is that we can see each moment filled with joy or filled with sorrow, filled with pain or filled with pleasure, filled with surprise or disappointment, every high or every low, as being a gift from God that He is using to build us into the people that He wants us to be. That doesn't mean He causes us to fall into these calamities, but we live in a sinful world, and we will definitely come into contact with sin's effect on the world. But we can trust that when we do, God can and will use it in our lives. I've seen this in my own life. You see, I grew up wishing that my father were around, and knowing that at one point he had been, as I got older, I was constantly disappointed that he didn't choose to stay involved in my life. I felt rejected, I felt unloved, unseen, alone, and hurt. My mom worked 3 jobs to take care of us, and I didn't have any siblings, so a lot of my childhood was literally just me trying to figure my way through life. But do you want to hear something amazing? God saw me. He loved me. And one really difficult day in my life, He reminded me that He was always with me and that He was going to use all of that hurt in my life. Did you hear that? He would use it. Not just heal it or fix it, but that He would give it meaning. Do you know how that's happened? My kids have a dad who wants to spend so much time with them, who wants so badly to teach them things that will help them in their lives, who is constantly hugging, kissing, and playing with them. I've learned how lucky I am to be a dad, and I know more than many how important a present father is, so I try hard to be the best father that I can be. Dying hopes from my childhood were buried and tilled into the soil of my soul to produce the fruit of love in me that now nourishes my children. And any father will tell you, they want better for their kids than they themselves had. And God used my pain and sorrow to help my kids have better. He worked it all for my good, and He wants to do the same with you. Now it's time for
Today's Big Question!
Today's big question is, what pain in your life or deep hurt can you pray to the Lord about, asking Him to use it for your good? When we love God, our pain becomes fuel for future worship. And in the same way that things die so that others may live, God wants to bring life out of death, light from darkness, and joy from our sorrows. He just wants us to believe and to trust Him that He'll do it. Do you believe? Do you trust Him? Thanks for listening to the Generation Kids Daily Devo podcast. If you want to keep in touch with us on all our social media platforms, check out the links in the description. And if you'd like to help support us as we continue to create meaningful content for kids of all generations, please subscribe to our Patreon by visiting us at patreon.com/wearegenerationkids.